That's it's it, I think
Premature.
you know what I I think the best way to describe Eric in like one moment is we have this lock in the back of the clinic,
Fuck,
and
dude.
you have to just push in the code, press enter, and just listen to it open and fully unlock.
It takes forever.
And it's literally 1 second. He just goes, "Meow."
Yeah.
And then you just pull after that. But Eric does this.
And so on the inside, you hear it
Yeah.
going.
And I hear it going, and I see the lock unlocking, and then halfway through, you're pulling, and then it stops the lock, because the lock is like, why are you doing that?
Why are you an idiot?
Yeah, like, why can't you wait 1 second? And the funny thing about that is,
It's
you
like a microcosm of my...
like, it's taking you more time to re-enter the code.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then if you just enter the code, press enter.
Well, it's like that... It's like that reel that I told you about people with ADHD following audio instructions, and the guy is sitting there with a bunch of stuff on his desk, and the woman is on the video, and you can hear her talking, and she's like, okay, so in front of you you have a piece of paper with a circle drawn on it, and you have some scissors. You're going to take the scissors, and he looks at the scissors, he picks them up, and he just starts cutting to like trace the circle. And she goes, there's a bit of a pause. And as he's doing this, she goes, you're going to take those scissors and you're going to put them to the side. We're not going to use them yet. And so he immediately looks at the paper that's all like cut up. He's like, oh shit. But he sees the tape. And she goes, but don't worry about it. If you've already cut into the paper, there's also some tape. So he picks up the tape, starts taping the cut that he did. She goes, you're also going to take the tape and put it to the side because we don't need it yet. He's like, just keeps messing up because he keeps jumping the gun. That is me. Yeah. Jumping the gun always.
Always. It's like, just be patient for 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, we're in whatever episode we're
doing back to back.
Back to back. This is why it
a double
looks,
feature.
Yeah, this is why it looks like we're homeless people and we haven't changed.
Because we haven't changed.
We literally, this will be a week in between, and lots of things will probably happen. But we're just like back. We're. I guess like, are we gonna do this on a week? Like, are we gonna have like 52 episodes?
Yeah.
Is that what?
I think that's the
season. Or
the only way I see us producing less volume is if our episodes become longer and more involved, as far as like we have guests. There's like planning involved. Like, I could see us going to maybe like 35, 36 a year. But I think right now, I
don't even know what our like count goal is. Like, I think we shouldn't do 52. I think we can. That's a lot, but also,
it's a lot.
No one's. I guess, would anybody be listening during Christmas? Christmica?
People are always listening.
But isn't the whole thing about Hanukkah is like we shouldn't be on tech? Or
that's Yom Kippur.
That's Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur.
Okay. Well, we will do a whole episode on Yom Kippur, and you will never hear it. At least the Jewish people won't.
Correct.
And then if you did hear it, I got you.
Last joke.
Isn't Yom Kippur though like your
Day of Atonement?
Day of Atonement, but you're also. Oh wait, I might be mixing up.
The big high holidays are Passover, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah happen around the same time because you're trying to go into the new year. Everything that's in the past is in the past. So you gotta
let it.
Yeah, I'd be like, I was a pretty shitty person. I gotta do better. Then you do all the good, uplifting, fun stuff.
And next year on that holiday, I need you to apologize to the lock.
It's coming up. It happens around Easter.
Oh, okay. Well, I better see an atonement to the lock.
Isn't it weird that all these religious holidays all kind of line up? It's almost like, okay, I'll run out of time.
Okay, I'm moving on.
This episode, I am on fumes.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be like a.
Why are you on fumes? This is easy peasy lemon squeezy.
I haven't told you this, but I had horrible stomach cramps last night for some weird reason. I was up 5 different times. I think I got like 3 hours of sleep.
We had a whole episode about sleeping.
I'm going to bed before, like, I'm going to bed between 8:30 and 9:30 every night. Last night, I stayed up a little bit later, 10:30, because I was editing podcasts. I was just doing some other stuff that I wanted to get done before our morning meeting. And then I got in bed. I tossed and turned for like 2 hours, got out of bed, made a snack. I thought maybe like I need to settle my stomach, so I drank some like milk.
Yeah.
And then I went back to bed, fell asleep for an hour, woke up, tossed and turned. Like, then at 5:30, I just got out of bed and did dishes and just got the house ready. So that was I didn't get much sleep, so I'm a little tired, but it's fine.
Give me a little B.
I'm no B. I'm no little B.
Okay, this episode is another Reddit episode. So I when do you want to do these cadences? Like once a month, once every 2 weeks? Yeah.
Once every 2 months.
Once every 2 months. You want to do it every 2.
Wait. So this will be our 8th episode.
This is technically
9. No.
9, but 8. we deleted one of the episodes, remember? Because you're like, I fucking hate it.
8. Yeah, it was terrible.
That, which was a actual Reddit.
It was Reddit,
but he had no idea.
Reddit.
And I, in my defense, I did give you the podcast to listen to before doing the podcast, and then you only listened to the podcast after we did the podcast, and you're like, "Oh, that is the format that we need to be doing."
I looked up what the podcast was about.
Yeah,
I got enough of information.
Yeah. This is that whole lock situation again.
Yeah.
Jump into the conclusion.
I was like, I know how this is gonna go, and that was so awkward.
It was awkward for you. It was clear that you had no idea what the fuck we were doing.
Which sometimes can be a recipe for a great episode, but it was not.
Yeah, I guess.
It was just a lot of me scrolling my phone trying to find the comments.
Yeah. And I was way more prepared. Which is, like, again, a cosm of our relationship. Which is, I am coming very prepared, and here comes Eric.
I like to fly by the seat of my pants.
Straggling in.
Yeah.
I think we
open.
We should release and let the Goldman Sachs people decide.
Okay.
How bad it was. That should be the bonus episode.
Yeah, this is a bonus episode. We have little bits at the end of every episode. There's like a bit of blooper from that first episode that we just like
give it so that everybody over 52 episodes will find the entire
1 minute per episode.
Yeah,
adds up to 52 minutes.
That episode sucks. God. We are back to Reddit, which is a website that people love ask questions, and
so the cadence every 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
I think we should do at least once a week, one episode of the month. One out of every 4 should be a
Reddit.
A Reddit.
I feel like
there is like a trove of information on Reddit.
Yeah, but it's mostly bad. It just pisses me off.
I know.
I don't want to be angry once a month.
I know, it's funny though.
It is. There are some pretty funny ones.
It's very funny.
I had one for today that was just inappropriate, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, now you're gonna say it, and then the people are gonna want it. The Goldman Sachs people want it. The GS. Okay, so we're gonna just get right into it. This is Am I the Asshole?
My favorite.
Am I the asshole for how I fought my boyfriend's medical bill going too far? Question mark?
Uh-huh.
My boyfriend had to go to the ER after an accident, and he got truly a ridiculous bill back. I offered to fight the bill for him.
Yeah, I got confused by that too. You mispronounced things.
I fought the bill for him because I've done it before, and he said sure. I went all out because honestly, if we were out $5,000 after insurance, that would fuck up our holiday plans pretty bad. So here we go. This list is fucking exhausting. Had him call the hospital and authorize me to handle his bill and access his medical records. 2, got an itemized bill and compared the prices for each code to the fair prices. 3, called billing to dispute the bill, but was told that billing only collects bill. I'd need to contact admin to dispute. 4, bounced around a call center for hours trying to get someone who was actually qualified for bill disputes and getting nowhere. 5, Google and LinkedIn searched for the hospital board and directors and upper management. 5, got 30 emails of the most influential people at the hospital plus the hospital's investors. 6, every day would send a few emails working my way up the chain and writing an increasingly long email describing how they billed my client at 7 times over the fair price for services rendered, and how their billing department, customer service department, and the growing list of management I'd emailed had failed to address the issue. 7, escalated the emails until I was writing the director level staff with the entire board of directors and a number of outside investors CC'd, asking them for a written statement regarding their justification for billing at a rate 7 times higher.
How many more of these?
An average national average for consumer services to what is available at other hospitals, and sturdily laying out the failures to appropriately respond at every level of the company.
Can we pause?
We're getting close.
She should be getting a job offer from, like, this feels like that the show Suits.
No, I mean, this sounds like Erin Brockovich. Like, is she?
This girl needs to get hired by someone. She's
killing it.
I mean, like,
and she's just like linearly cranking it.
Yeah.
Well, once I was done with all of that, and she's like, honestly, it was only 15 minutes a day. They reduced the bill from $5,000, drum roll, to $26. Yep.
Why would they just waive it at that point? Why is it even $26?
I have no idea.
Just waive it at that point. What are we doing here?
Okay, so, well, I told my boyfriend the good news, and he was first overjoyed and blown away, like literally jumping up and down and hugging me and saying it was literally a Christmas miracle.
But then he got embarrassed.
Yeah. Right? But then when he asked how I did it, I said it wasn't too hard. Understatement.
Yeah.
I just had to send a couple of emails each day. He was curious what I'd said and handed him the phone. He started to get stressed and flipping back through the emails, which there were like 60 of them. He told me I went too far. He was expecting me to dispute through their billing department or something normal and reasonable, like not internet stalk every single manager and board member and investor and harass them until they dropped the bill. I was frustrated because I had saved us $5,000, actually made it possible for us to afford a nice Christmas and save money at the same time. But he was mad at me because I had been a bit of a hard ass. I was furious.
Man, if Brooke did that, I would be like, wait, why aren't we doing this
all the time?
Like, let's direct this into every aspect.
I was furious, and he was also mad at me, saying he authorized me to dispute a bill, not basically threaten and harass a whole damn hospital for weeks.
It's kind of true, but it's fucking hilarious.
Am I that asshole for how we got my boyfriend's medical bills dropped? There's so many things that we can talk about in this. There's so many threads that we can pull.
What's first, before we go down there, do you think she's the asshole?
No, she's not an asshole.
I agree.
If she was my girlfriend, I'd be like, fuck yeah. I would have taken the money and just bought her something really nice.
I feel it was like extreme couponers. I was expecting her to make money.
Yeah, essentially, like
we actually owe you $100.
She saved that dude $4,984. I would have just taken $4,984 and just moved it to doing something really nice for her, because that was like a lot of time and effort on her end. That is an asshole. Seriously, I don't know.
He's the asshole.
Yeah, like, why are you butthurt about this?
You asked her to get a job done. She fucking did it.
Yeah, I don't understand why she got all butthurt about it. This doesn't.
Why she got butthurt?
Yeah.
After he...
Or why he got butthurt about it.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
But, one, I think this is an important thing to talk about, which I talk about it is, like, the deadly triangle. Mm-hmm. At the top of the triangle is the insurance company. On the left is the medical doctors, and on the right is the patient. The medical doctor wants to do the right thing by you. Most medical doctors want to do the right thing by you, but they're hamstrung because the insurance is only going to pay the medical doctor if they follow the exact protocol.
It's so frustrating.
And I would tell you that we don't take insurance at the Sports Pod. and this is for the direct reason, is because I don't want insurance dictating to me
Your treatment.
what I want to do with the athlete. Like I want to do the best by the athlete by what I already know,
Yeah.
and not by what insurance is dictating. A great example is I have an athlete. She's like 26 years old. She has insurance through her parents. I suspect that she has a meniscal tear. I do a ton of orthos. I do
Oh
a
yeah, I
very
remember
thorough
this.
history, and all of it is pointing to a meniscal tear. The insurance didn't. I write an MRI script because I want the only way to understand whether or not there's a soft tissue injury or there's a structural injury in the knee
Is with an
is
MRI.
with an MRI.
But they want you to do an X-ray.
So she gets denied. Then the nurse who's on the case calls me and she's like, asks me these questions, which I already know what she's doing.
Where she's going.
She's
Yeah.
like trying to deny the MRI, right?
Right.
And she's like, well, is she weight bearing? Blah, blah, blah. She's asking all the things I would ask in a history.
Because
But-
she thinks it's bone.
Well, she wants to do the x-ray first.
Yeah.
So
Because she wants to
her
rule
history, right. So the history is telling me that there's a meniscus in there. I do all the orthos telling me that there's a meniscus. But there's like one thing in there, which is like, did you rule out there's only one way to rule out a stress fracture in the knee,
Correct.
which is like really like a CT scan, a bone scan, or an x-ray. And
Right.
she's like, well, did you rule out a stress fracture? I was like, no, because none.
Also,
This is like the bureaucracy of like, that drives me nuts.
for people that don't know this, there are. Well, I'll let you say yes or no to my statement. I think I know of 3 meniscal tests that you can do, and 2 of them have like an extremely high
Yeah, one of them.
positive, like
Thessaly's
positive.
test is one of them.
Yes.
It's very sensitive, and essentially like you're just weight bearing on the knee and then twisting the knee to see whether or not. And she was positive for it, and she asked me if I had done Thessaly's, and I was like, yes, I did Thessaly's, and it's positive, and she has
Yeah.
swelling in it. I mean, again, everything was pointing to it.
yeah. So it's like, what? Why are we having to?
Right. So that is like a microcosm of like the bullshit, which is you're just wasting time. You're actually spending more money. And I also kind of get it because there are a lot of bad doctors out there that aren't going through these tests. I don't know what the solve is, but the medical doctor has to go through a really lengthy bullshit process, which honestly the medical
Yeah.
doctor doesn't honestly know it. It's the code enforcers at the hospital that are like, you need to do X, Y, and Z and document it
Yeah.
exactly this way, or else the insurance is going to deny.
And the
our
code
claim.
system,
Isn't it?
it the way it's set up, it's so easily corruptible.
Yes, and that's why there's a lot of fraud in.
A lot of fraud, and
There's
that's
a ton.
so. For a very hot minute, my first where I first came into contact with codes there was a short, like we're talking like a week period where I was thinking about maybe going to medical sales.
Mhm.
And so I had to learn the codes for what I was going to eventually, hopefully, sell. And when I saw how that all worked, I immediately was like, this is shady AF. Because
Yeah.
you're basically, you're just pushing a certain treatment because that code gets more money.
Yeah, it's insane. And on the medical side, the hospital side, the insurance is paying you pennies on the dollar. So for every dollar that you're billing, they're only really giving you back like 25 cents. So that's why you are getting these inflated.
To try to recover.
They're trying to recover what they actually need to be paid.
Right.
And of course, there's some bad apples in the system, so they don't make it any easier for the situation either, because they're also making these rules for the bad apples,
Yeah.
knowing that they're trying to take advantage. Which once you get into the money part of it, right? There's just the incentives are so weighted to corruption that
Right.
these things do happen. So I get it. But if you're talking about like a medical doctor or a doctor that is trying to do right by you, they're hamstrung. The people who are taking insurance, the people who are taking Medicare and Medicaid,
Oh my
they
God.
are really hamstrung
Yeah.
about what they can do, how they can say it, and what type of treatment plan you're going to get. And that results in the insurance. You're not seeing the doctor really. You're seeing the insurance. You're seeing Aetna, Sigma, whatever the fucking insurance, the Blue Cross. You're seeing the company essentially give you the treatment plan. And that I'm not the only one that has said this. This is not old new
Yeah.
news. This is like a very consistent thing that is happening to patients across America, which is really unfortunate. And then on the patient side, I mean, there one, you have to meet it. Usually, you have to meet a deductible, so you're paying out of pocket for this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And again, that's why they're inflating a little bit of it. Is like they're inflating it so that you reach the deductible quicker, and then the insurance can fill over.
Yeah.
To now you understand why everything's inflated because they're giving you the same. They can't give one bill to the insurance and then give you a separate bill. That's
Right.
double billing. Like you have to. It has to be one bill, and that's the reason why they are able to cut it down
Yeah.
to basically $26 is because like that's probably what it actually costs them. Like they're just like this is our barrier to entry, or this is where we're recovering on the services. And
I
then
really wish we knew exactly what services,
every hospital is
because that would have been
different.
interesting to. It would have been interesting to know what certain care, like, added up to 5,000 and what it really costs.
Yeah, I mean, look, I looked at some of the bills of some patients that had babies at a hospital and what they were charging for shit. It was like,
Because what that sounds like is like an ER visit that required like a ambulance.
Yeah.
So the ambulance fee was like $3,000 or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, look, an anesthesiologist just walking into your room is going to cost you $5,000 just to be in the room.
they probably just gave him some fluids. He probably like passed out or something. And
Yeah.
like it was like simple procedure. Like, hey, we gave him some fluids. He was fine. He walked out. $5,000.
Yeah.
That's what my gut tells me.
I specifically we don't take insurance because of that exact reason. Is I did not want to be hamstrung by somebody behind a desk telling me what was going on with this patient that they had never seen, never talked to.
You basically
they'd
cook your
never seen.
books.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to manipulate this. It's a system that you have to manipulate very hard to be able to pay, or on the doctor side to be paid
Yeah.
the way that you need to be paid, and on the patient side, unfortunately, like everybody's losing except for the insurance because the
Yeah.
insurance doesn't want to pay the patient like what they need to because they're also trying to
Yeah.
save money.
Which ties into what I was telling you about that short period of time when I was thinking about going into sales. Is part of the sell is to the doctor, you can make more money
Yeah.
by offering this.
Yeah.
And I just felt icky because I'm basically I don't really believe in what I'm selling because
Yes.
I think it's bullshit. But you can make a fuck ton of money with this code. I'm telling the doctor, or I'm not talking. I'm trying to get a hold of the doctor through other people.
Right.
Hey, you can make this much on this code if you sell this.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Again, isn't that crazy?
And they need to do it because
you are selling the doctor on incentivizing them. Like, look, you can make much more money if you use this. Can you use this code rather than the reverse, which is like this medicine actually helps people. It's actually much cost less for the patient, and it's less stressful on their bodies and blah blah blah. Like,
I mean, there were aspects of that like that. It was like for pain management. It was in that realm.
I mean that
which is
pain
such
management is already in a real icky.
Yeah.
Shitty
We could do a whole thing on pain clinics.
Yeah, it's
But it just all felt very icky.
yeah, and this is a great microcosm of this story is a great microcosm of how the system is a little bit broken. I don't know what the solution is. because even in Canada, it's universal healthcare. They're still trying to game the system there too. I guess like
Yeah.
the real question is for me, the people that can pay out of pocket, which again, like we're expensive and not everybody can afford to come to the sports pod.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I feel like I wish I could help more people,
Yeah.
but for me to be able to run the business and give quality care, like this is just the only way that I know how to do it. And the only way that I know how to do it is not to do it through insurance,
Yeah.
because I am not being incentivized by the insurance.
Right.
I'm being incentivized by being good at what I do. And then
Yeah, people either see the value or they don't.
They don't,
So
and yeah.
it drives you to be better because you're like, this is how much I am
invested in this. So yeah.
And I think this leads back to the previous episode, partly why we're doing a podcast and partly why we have talked and explored the idea of camps, or it's a lower cost option, the podcast being free,
Yeah.
to at least get preventative information out there.
Yes.
So for those that couldn't afford to see you, hopefully they never have to see you.
Yeah.
By listening and learning a bit more about how to identify,
X, Y, and
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and that's, to me, is just another way to reach as many people as possible. And hopefully they ask the right questions, and to be a little bit more advocates of their own health, of their bodies, of their own healthcare. But yeah, I think that, going back to the story, I think that girl should fucking get 2 high fives and you should dump
and get
that
hired
dude.
by like a law firm or something.
I mean, just dump that dude. That guy obviously,
he doesn't want a bad bitch. And that's what you want.
Yeah, you are a complete badass. Okay, the next story. You can cut a little bit of this while I go back to our Notion.
Story. Stranger Things.
Oh, how your brain works is interesting to me. More than half of humans. So this is a article that was dropped by The Guardian this year. More than half of humans on track to being overweight or obese by 2035.
Sorry. Americans or humans in just all around?
Humans all around by The Guardian.
Cool. Nice. I wonder what that percentage is like in US.
Well, look,
is that
here are the comments.
Average is getting pulled down.
Mass obesity is the most infuriating problem, in my opinion. World hunger statistics are over 2 billion are overweight or obese, or at least 800 million are malnourished, aka starving. It's a problem of distribution and food waste, not production. Also, the food industry has no incentive to help, given more obese and overweight people means higher revenue and profit since more food sold. I mean, that's an interesting take.
Overfed, undernourished. That is...
Right. So, there's a lot of threads here to be pulled. One, do you really think it's a distribution problem and a food waste problem? Let's just like bring it down to just America, because we don't know what's going on in other countries. But let's think about America.
I think partly. I think
you think partly it's a distribution problem. Obesity.
Well, this is difficult because it's we live in a capitalist society, so distribution is going to go where the money is.
So I have a little bit of a different take on this, which is, I think that there are food deserts. And New York is a great example of this, which is they don't have necessarily grocery stores. They have little bodegas that have whatever they have stocked. So some of those in those really urban, dense areas don't even have like a Whole Foods or a Central Market. Like, we are lucky in Dallas because we have literally grocery stores everywhere. But imagine that you have like just only a Trader Joe's, and that's the only place that you can actually order food. And Trader Joe's has some good food, but honestly, like I would say 75% of Trader Joe's food is not that good for you.
I have some hot takes, some hot sports opinions on this.
Well, we are
Uh,
we're
I've been to plenty of places that you would say are like are food desert.
uh-huh.
You can still eat healthy. You can still
How? It's
the food options there are, yeah, sure, they're not as great, but I've never been to a place where it was just like your only option was fucking Hostess. Like, there's produce, there's meat, there's it's
I would say that okay, here's
and then so my other well here, sorry, I don't want to cut you off again, but what were you gonna say?
I think that there is I think that this is a real thing, which is financially. Okay, let's just say you're on a high, like a very strict budget.
Yeah,
Sometimes the high carb, high sugar
yeah,
food,
because it's subsidized.
yeah,
Yeah,
is way cheaper
of course.
than having like a pound of lean meat.
Yeah, the grain industry is heavily subsidized by the government, so those costs are lower.
which
That's
is
a whole
which is
other
incentivizing which is incentivizing people.
Yeah,
So like if
because it's a cheaper product too,
Right.
so the higher margins.
right, so if I'm going to the grocery store, I would love to. I don't know this, and this is going to be obviously regional and community dependent, but if I looked at on average like what in people's shopping carts would be, I mean when I'm at the Trader Joe's on Lovers,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm only there to just get those beef sticks.
Yeah.
That's the only place I get beef sticks.
Uh-huh.
You're not even gonna bite on that bit.
No,
Okay. I thought for sure you'd bite on the beef stick bit. Okay. Moving
The
on.
reality is like I was thinking of 4 other things when you said it, and I just like I came back to like paying attention to what you were saying, and it was too late for me to do something with it.
When I look at it's, I mean, I would tell you there's a ton of frozen foods in there,
Yeah.
which are going to be added preservatives to keep it fucking fresh.
My argument is you find fat and skinny people everywhere.
Yeah.
There's skinny homeless people, there's fat homeless people,
Mhm.
there's skinny rich people, there's fat rich people.
Right.
I don't and if one of our viewers, listeners, whatever knows of a good like cohort study or a high quality study over a period of time that we could get like data to support if there's like a higher percentage of obesity, and it's like from a percentage standpoint in these areas, I would love to see it. Because I hate going off of observational because there's so
Yeah.
many flaws with that,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna do it anyway. Like I've been to plenty of impoverished areas, rich areas, like been to Europe, I've been to, and you see generally the things that they're putting in their cart are the reason why they are the way they look.
Right.
So I can go to Kroger right now and get obese immediately. Like, and I see generally you see fat people pick up things that make them fat, and no one's forcing them.
Yeah.
No one's got a gun to their head.
We're in America.
Yeah.
Got the
And generally you see, if you go to the produce section and you see people that are healthier looking.
I mean, as
So-
a general rule, when I'm at the grocery store, I only see on the outsides of the
Right.
grocery
Stay on
store.
the outside. That's
Stay on
a
the
great
outsides,
rule.
on the perimeter.
And the other hot sports opinion I have is I think people are smarter than they let on. And I think people are very aware of what they are doing to their body and what they eat. I don't think it's an educational problem.
I disagree. I think if you talk to a average patient and about their nutrition and like what, even me, I get confused about some nutrition stuff. I mean, part of the reason why I've gained
So
weight
you
was,
think there are people that are waking up eating donuts every morning, and they think
I mean,
that
that's a
they
obvious
should.
reason.
I just
But they
that
could
are
be overloading on carbs. They could be like, here's a great example. Like they
Yeah.
see something gluten free and they're like, that's obviously healthy. Or they see something that's
True.
like, this is organic. This is obviously healthy. And then they just
marketing
fucking,
definitely marketing. There's a lot of money put into marketing to trick you into buying whatever they want you to buy. 100%. I I find it very hard to believe that there are people walking around that don't know fruits and veggies are better for you than Lay's potato chips.
I also think like most Americans don't even cook anymore.
Correct. They
And
just eat
that's
out.
right.
Vegetable
So
oils and shit.
that's
Seed
again, this
oils.
is a whole other thing, which is like the industry of restaurants and fast food and takeout has grown exponentially, and our culture has moved from like sitting down at a dinner table and eating to like just casual takeout all the time, which again is like you don't even know what's going on in your food. So I think one of the issues with obesity is information and not being educated. It's one.
I think you can educate the fuck out of everyone. And this is why I have such a strong opinion about this. It's because I ran a gym for 15 years and all I did was educate people.
Yeah.
And what you find is that it doesn't really correlate. Like you'll have very I think
how bad do they want to change?
Right, how much do they want to change? And I think the underlying issue is excuse culture. I think we have therapy, everything has gone to a let's find an excuse or reason for everything that you're experiencing that's external from you. And at the end of the day, if you allow someone to have an excuse, you will take it.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten like you watch My 600-Pound Life and you're just like, what the
why are you watching that
fuck
show?
is going on? Why is this a thing? And it's like they all they do when they sit down is just like excuse.
Yeah.
Because they've been fed excuses, they're getting it from everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's never their fault. And I think we've gotten the train has left the station. We have gained so much momentum into this direction of let's provide an excuse for every single thing that's going on. And I'm not saying there aren't valid reasons, but I'm saying we've swung so far that we got to pull back a little bit and start having a little bit more focus on personal responsibility. Like you didn't get fat accidentally. We've gone down this road of it's just my genetics. It's like, is it your genetics or did you watch your fat parent eat the same fat shit that you're now eating?
I mean that's 50-50, right?
Nature versus nurture. But if you look at Deep Nutrition, the book Deep Nutrition, you look at Good Calorie Bad Calorie by Gary Taub, like you look at these what we learn, or you actually the better thing is like, look at that unethical study they did about three perfect strangers, three identical strangers. Do you know what I'm talking about? Study they did with it was triplets, identical triplets. You need to watch this. It's incredible.
I know of the show Perfect Strangers.
So there's a I think it's three identical anyway, I'll figure out what it is. We watched it a while back. It's identical triplets separated at birth.
3 of them. Okay.
All of them identical. Okay.
They separated them on purpose?
No, there was an adoption agency. And 3 families adopted
each one of the kids.
There's no way for me to explain this. Okay, I want you to see it without having it ruined.
I mean, you just do it. I'll see it and it'll be fine.
Okay. What they uncover is that this adoption agency was actually not a front, but like it was set up by a group of psychologists that wanted to do a study.
Damn.
So what they did is they put each of them, they homed them in 3 socioeconomically different to see what would happen.
So one went to
I get chills whenever I think about it. It's so fucked up. They literally were just
so one went to a poor,
middle class,
and rich.
Yeah.
Okay, and what were the results?
So because they wanted to know.
There's so many greats though. Like, I mean, you
identical twins are great for studies like this
Yes.
because they have the same genetics.
Yeah, the ethics behind, but like going past the ethics, it is unethical. But like
Yeah.
the information that you get from that is, it's quite impactful.
So there was a lot of really weird things that you're like, holy fuck, nature is strong.
Okay, such as
when they ran into each other at the same, like the way it all happened was pure happenstance. So this guy shows up at community college or whatever, and I think it was a community college, and someone came up to him and they were like,
hey,
they
what's
thought
up?
they knew
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And like, then they're like, you're not this person. And he's like, no. And well, you have to meet this person, basically. And that's how it all went down. Then they started digging, and like, they're like, we must have the same parents, obviously.
Right.
And they start going down this rabbit hole and discovering each other. They all did very similar things. Like, they were all driven to very similar things. Like, I want to say like they all smoked the same brand of cigarette. It was like all this weird stuff.
Yeah.
That you're like, how could genetics be a driver for this? But then the nurture they saw outweighed.
Wow.
Because their upbringing and their psychology and the way they handled things, the way that their parents, the resiliency of the different. I don't want to give away some things because it's crazy, but like you can see how it affected them from a depression, from a mental health standpoint. Their mental health was vastly different based on their parents'
upbringings,
and not necessarily their socioeconomic status, just like the parent.
Yeah,
because you could have everything or nothing. It was the way their dads spoke to them, the way their mom. It was just all of that. It's very fascinating. I think we tend to give way too much credence to our biology or our genetics, but you know this, like phenotype, genotype, gene expression, these things are heavily impacted by what we come in contact with.
Yeah.
There are certain things that they're like the light switch is stuck down or stuck on and you can't change it. Yeah. Then there are other aspects of your genetic code that
half and half
that can move. You can toggle them. So you can toggle certain things on or off based on what you're eating, how your lifestyle, how sedentary you are. And we repeat patterns. Humans repeat patterns. You see something done
over and over again.
A perfect example is if you saw your mother as who was being abused.
Yeah.
Right? And that was traumatizing to you. Wouldn't you think you would do the opposite? And yet studies show
you repeat that same pattern.
Like that, I mean, we could go on a whole, like that has always fascinated me because what sometimes seems logical from a psychological standpoint is not what happens.
Logical is not logical.
Right? So you break it down, you're like, yeah, well, you would just do the opposite because you would never want to repeat what you saw happen to your mom. But then, so it happens. Yeah. I'm derailing us, but my to go back, I think it should be both. We need to make sure people have access and education on what they need to put in their body. That starts from like, why are our schools not? People don't know what a fucking fruit is. Like that's a problem. Yes. But I also think people are smarter than we give people credit for, and I think it's dangerous to treat people as stupid.
Yeah.
Because if you treat them as stupid, they'll be stupid. Like people are smart.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't take the IQ threshold for being able to understand this is pretty fucking low. Yeah. Like let's give people more credit. I think we should be giving people more credit. Another example is kids. If the way you talk about them and the way they overhear you talk about them highly predicts their actions.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh man, my kid is so much trouble. They're gonna be trouble. There's
Yeah.
studies on this. And then if you're like, she's great, like
Yeah.
she's so easy and she makes our life, and we're so lucky.
Right.
That kid, people rise to
the bar that you give them.
Right. And we set bars so low in America, I think.
Yeah.
That's my observation. And then we wonder why people have these issues.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm getting very philosophical.
I
think
it's interesting because sometimes I've dealt with some children or athletes where their parents have that kind of mentality of this kid is like the saint, and then I start digging and the kid is kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what kid are you seeing? Because this kid in front of me.
Yeah. What version are they showing?
Yeah, like, there's definitely a disconnect here. Like, there's some parents that are just completely on whatever juice that they are, and their kid can never do any wrong, and their kid is so obviously struggling.
This is there's a whole other podcast here of the unique position that you and I are in, creating these connections. You cannot separate training someone from understanding the psychology.
Right.
And we have a very powerful impact that I feel like we need to be very aware of and take seriously.
Right.
Because we have so much time with people to give them wisdom that we've accrued. And a lot of times I've noticed it branches away. It's not always purely fitness related.
Yeah.
Or
you've heard my conversations
with
kids all the time.
Right. And so I think people when they're on that table, it's like we become a therapist. Like sometimes they come in, I don't know if it's because they're experiencing like it's vulnerability of being in a situation. They tend to also be vulnerable with their life. People talk to you in these sessions, and I think it's an aspect of what we do that I don't think a lot of people talk about.
Yeah.
That I know we both take seriously.
Yeah.
So we want to coach them. We want them to be, learn. And it is tough sometimes when you hear things that they're going through and you're like, but you're out of your scope, but you hurt for some of your clients, you hurt for them when you hear what they're going through. God, the camera cut out. It saved us from more of my rambling. That was getting rough at the end. I couldn't stop myself.
Yeah.
Let's just move on to the next one. How about it?
Yeah, here we go.
No more rants from Eric.
Last one, which is FDA finally bans artificial red dye from beverages, candy, and other foods. To tell you the truth, when I heard this come down the pipeline, I didn't really understand why this was a big deal. I know that RFK has made it a big deal. He talked a lot about it, and I would tell you that I'm actually quite ignorant about the red dye stuff. I know that Skittles and Starburst have a lot of this red dye. It's now being banned in America.
Yeah.
And I just the only thing that I do know, and this is like not like a low key flex or it's not meant to be like a brag, but like when I go to Europe, and even Asia, when I'm eating, and I eat a lot when I'm there, I feel so differently. And I think and I can attest to this because I'm like, I am constantly fine tuning what I'm putting in my body and figuring out what makes me feel good and what makes me sleep better and all that. But I notice that like when I'm in Europe, I can drink red wine. I don't feel like I'm drunk with hangovers. I can eat bread. It's fine. I can eat milk there. I'm like lactose intolerant here in America, but when I like eat cheese, it's like totally fine in Europe. Now when I'm in Asia, and I don't know, again, nutrition wise, I don't know if there's like a study that links like the food that you grew up with and the food that you ate as a child like makes you like biologically makes you feel better. Like I know that when I go away from Asian food,
You
like
need to
I
read deep,
feel
you need to read deep nutrition.
yeah.
Because that they would say your ancestry does.
Yeah, like your whatever
You should
your
eat the way you're
right.
yeah.
Because the more that I
The ethnic food that is part of your culture.
yeah, so wasn't there a study of like they took a bunch of Mexicans, they moved them to America, they gained a ton of weight, got diabetes, they moved them back to Mexico,
Yeah,
and
there's
all that
I
stuff.
forget the study, but you're pretty spot on.
Yeah, and so I know that when I go away from my like upbringing food, which is a lot of Chinese food, I tend to gain weight. I feel shittier. I have way worse sleep. So I stick to it, but I'm diverging here.
Yeah.
Please tell us more about the red dye because I know you know.
I honestly don't. I probably only know a little bit more, and the only reason is because I like to argue, and if I'm going to argue something, I have to know a little bit about it. So when I researched it, because my first inclination was like, this is awesome, this is great.
Yeah.
But then when I looked at the study that was being used, it was extremely high amounts of it in mice.
Uh-huh.
And there are problems with what the mice developed at the exposure levels.
What did they?
I honestly I don't even remember what happened to the mice. I know it wasn't good, but it was so much that it made me question if it was applicable to humans. It made me like at the amount that we consume.
Have you seen kids eat fucking?
You'd have to eat like 18 bags of Skittles like a day.
I think there are people out there that are eating.
I don't think it's good for you. I don't think it's as bad as they're saying. And I think this is true for a lot of like the villainized things. I think at the amounts that we're taking in, it's probably not as bad as how people make it out to be. Like, I think sucralose, maltodextrin. I just think as long as you're not drinking 18 Dr. Peppers a day, I don't.
There are people out there that
do that, and they're on that show, My 600 Pound Life. I think to tie the red dye thing with what you were saying with Europe, they have very strict laws when it comes to like GMOs, when it comes to genetically modified organisms. Their laws are very different than ours, and I think, but again, this comes down to like the quality of the study. It's very hard to compare Americans to Europeans or any other country.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to say that the variable that is the difference is the food.
Yeah.
When there's a million other variables to control for. What they prioritize is different there. They walk more. Their public transportation. There's so many other aspects of life in Europe that is so different than the US.
I agree. I mean, I agree. But it is from my own reading and from my own research of like what the FDA does in America.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and there's also no rhyme or reason for. I mean, a lot of
all the money.
Yeah, follow the money incentivized. But outside of that, like some of the shit is like crazy. I mean, talk about like the supplement industry, the FDA, and the way that people make supplement
corn. There are books and books about corn.
Yeah,
and the development of the byproducts and the push from these lobbyists to get corn syrup to replace. It'll blow your mind.
Yeah, and before it was cut off, the supplement industry, which was I was originally talking about, has like the shit that you were taking, like amino acids and the BCAAs and
creatine. There's no one that's like saying like this is there's no one actually overseeing any of the shit that you're putting in your body in the supplement industry. Like they're just kind of like pack like the rules and the standards around supplementation are so low that like what you are thinking you're ingesting is most likely what you are ingesting. And like it's this goes back to like what is the FDA actually doing?
Yeah. Pushing whatever agenda
Is
yeah.
going on.
Yeah, so I think that it's just an interesting. I think that it's an interesting time in America because we have a different administration with a different agenda,
Yeah.
which is, and we have a different um, agenda on health. Which whether or not you agree with RFK or not, things are going to change going forward, and
Yeah.
I kind of look forward to seeing what it looks like to challenge the status quo.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over
Yeah.
and expecting different results.
Yeah.
So things had to change.
Yeah.